is that Ben Simmons made a three-pointer. He actually squared up, took the pass, and shot the three and made it. I mean, that just doesn't happen. And it's so exciting to see Ben Simmons do it. But I will temper my expectations for right now because Ben Simmons has done this to us before. During the preseason, before the season started, before all COVID canceled the season and we had to wait till now, but before the preseason of that, Ben Simmons made a three-pointer during that as well. And he was taking jump shots, and he was looking good, and we were all saying as fans, like, oh, this is a new Ben, and Ben Simmons has finally figured it out. He knows that if he gets a jump shot, he's going to be deadly in the league. There's no way anyone can catch up to him. He's the next LeBron. Like all that excitement around Ben Simmons doing it. And what happened when the season started? Ben Simmons went back to driving to the basket, playing his normal game of facilitating, of getting close and only hook shots and, layups, no jumpers. Welcome to the ChadBurn Show, brought to you by M. Chad Baldwin. Welcome to the ChadBurn Show. I am your host, ChadBurn, and as always, we're reporting up here in Montreal in the ChadBurn household, still holding it down during the whole COVID pandemic. But to all those listeners out there, it is a bright and beautiful day because sports are back. That is right. The MLB season has started. It is underway. We have gotten opening day already happening across the league. It has been an absolute just amazing thing to have baseball back. I can't tell you how excited I am to actually be able to turn on the TV and watch live sports happening. On top of that, the NBA continues to have their scrimmage games. They're continuing to play more and more. We have the regular season going to be underway towards the end of the month. We're going to talk about that as well. And there's even some exciting trade news going on in the NFL with the news that Jamal Adams has been shipped off to the Seahawks. We'll go through the details of that trade and really what it breaks down and decide, who we think are the winners of this one. So to start off, we have to talk about it because sports are back, and that's baseball. The Major League Baseball season is underway again after being gone on a short hiatus for the last few months because of the whole COVID pandemic. They are back, running, rolling. It is awesome to see it happening. A few things, obviously, that are different. There are no fans in the stands. All the players are getting tested beforehand and after. It's a shortened season. And, of course, if a player does get tested, they're put on the COVID-19 injured list. So not your normal injured reserve list, but the COVID-19 injured reserve list. So the opening night obviously started all off. The first game of the whole season were the Yankees-Nationals at the National Stadium. And it already started off with a little drama because obviously there was a COVID-19 test with Juan Soto being tested positive for COVID-19. So you already have this scare at the beginning of the season. Not to mention on top of that, with the first ever game of the season, and only in 2020 can this happen, is that there was a rain delay on the first frickin' game. Of course, the gods and baseball and everything could not give us some respite through all this insanity and allow us to have one full, complete enjoyment of sports coming back to us. They had to ruin the first game, but we still got 6 innings of great baseball, and it's very exciting. Obviously, the game afterward, the Giants-Dodgers took place, so there's no problem, and the rest of the games have gone off without a hitch. But that, of course, had to happen. A few thoughts, though, with the new setup. One, they have started to put in sound effects into the stadium to try and mimic the fans being there, right? This is for the baseball players, really to get them still in the zone. No real stress about having it too quiet, it being eerie, a little bizarre, almost more like a practice scrimmage. So the sounds are coming in. And, you could actually hear them on the TV. You could hear the sound being pumped in. You could hear the kind of different chanting, the music they would normally play, to get the fans riled up. And to me, it was a little bizarre because you can clearly see there's no one in the stands. You can clearly see there's no one behind the dugouts, behind home plate, except for a few of the starting pitchers that aren't pitching that night, and maybe the owner of the team. But really, there's no one there, and you could hear the sounds, though. So I found it a little bizarre. I guess it's obviously to be for the benefit of the players. So, if it works for them, have at it. It's not going to ruin my experience because obviously I'm watching on TV no matter what. But I did find, and I don't know if there's going to be any stats to back this up for right now, but I do feel like with the sound effects, because they're quiet and there's still a silence in the stadium. Yes, you're having it pumped in, but there's still a silence, right? It's not the intensity you can get with having a full, 50,000 stadium filled. What I found is that I feel like the batters are going to have an advantage with the silence. For whatever reason, obviously with batting it's pure concentration. It's getting in the zone. It's not being stressed. It's not having any nerves going on. And the fans, especially if you're in a away team, the fans really can impact the way a batter can hit there. So I feel though that without the sound, with a little bit quieter, we're going to see a lot better hitting. And I think we've seen it across several games. There was only a handful of games where the score was decided was under 3-1, 3-2, 1-1. Most games were getting above 5 runs per game. We saw a lot of games even get into double digits. So I feel like we're going to see a lot of offense this season, and I'm really excited for that. I think it's going to be, especially with a shortened season. We have 60 games. We don't have the whole 160 games. We really need to kind of compact everything in there, and to make it more exciting, I think it's going to be awesome to see the offense really start taking control. And I think it does give them some advantage, having it quiet, allowing them to really concentrate, to really study their pitcher, to really be able to make every split decision without any distraction behind them, without anyone heckling them, without any booing. So I do feel like we're going to see a lot of home runs. I feel like we're going to see a lot of big hits. I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be absolutely incredible. So that's one with the sound effects. The other thing was having the announcers not at the stadium. So the announcers who were broadcasting the game, especially on ESPN, it was A-Rod, and I think the other guy's name is Matt. They were obviously in Connecticut in the ESPN studios, not at the National Stadium. And I'm only focusing on the Yankees National game because that was the first game of the season. But they had the announcers in the other away from the stadium, and there was clearly a delay. So it was more about them telling stories and kind of making some anecdotes while they're all playing, because the play-by-play was a little behind. You'd have the pitch, and then all of a sudden you had the call from them a few seconds later. It was not in lockstep with how the game was actually being played out. I feel like that's going to be a challenge for them as the season goes on. They really need to make sure that there's not going to be that many delays. They really need to make sure that they can figure out the technology, or at least understand the cadence with the announcers and the game itself to be able to make accurate calls as it's going on, because it's going to start driving fans nuts if you're constantly 30 seconds behind the actual gameplay. It's just going to feel like you're watching a bad movie or streaming something that's not, you have a bad internet and it's not coming through. So that's going to be a challenge that also we're going to see going forward. I hope they're able to get maybe a few announcers in the stadium. I feel like you can definitely social distance to keep them out from the players, from interacting with any of media or any other people that it could be a danger from and what you're trying to limit it to. But I feel like you could get them in the stadium, and that would go a long way, I think, to continue to make the game feel normal, to make it feel like we're back in the run of things, just to make the MLB season start feeling a little bit more like the MLB season. On top of that, in the first game of this MLB season between the Yankees and the Nationals, the commissioner, Rob Manfred, also came on to announce a new format of the MLB playoffs this year. So again, we have a shortened season of 60 games, so we got to really pack everything into it all the way to the end. And now to make that excitement, and because obviously teams, depending on the strength of their schedule, to back up a bit, every game now, because it's a 60-game season, is going to be really important right now. And normally in baseball, it's a game of endurance. It's a game of making sure that you can be strong, consistent through the whole season. If you lose here, you're going to lose usually about 50 games anyway. So it's okay to lose some games, lose those here and there. But now with the 60-game season, you need to try and win every single game. It's almost like a playoff atmosphere. People have compared it to how in NFL, because it's one game a week and 16 games, that the baseball season is going to start having that feel, that you're really going to need to make sure that you come through and you do not dig a hole for yourself early in this season. You cannot go down and lose 5 straight, 6 straight games and still have a really good run, because you're going to have to then catch up so much more later in the season if other teams have a hotter start. So with a 60-game season, it's really important to make sure that you're going to win every game you can. And on top of that now, because there's such an importance, and because strength of schedule is going to determine a lot of this, teams that are going to have easy schedules over 60 games, they're going to kill it, and they're going to have crazy records, and they're going to easily get in the playoffs. Other teams who are still good teams, but maybe get set up against all the best teams in the league and have a really crappy strength of schedule, they are going to, possibly miss out. So in order to, counteract that and to make the players involved and get the coaches and everyone excited, they've now extended the MLB playoffs to 16 teams, 8 teams from each league. So 8 teams from the American League and 8 teams from the National League. They're going to do 3 games during a wild card, best of 3, then best of 5 for division round, then best of 7 for the league championship, and obviously 7 games in the World Series. I do really like the idea of expanding it outside because we no longer have that play in your in game, which really could go either way. It also allows it so that, there's going to be 2 teams from every division are guaranteed in the playoffs, which I think is huge because if you were to say have, one team that, say you were in a division and one of your teams in that division has a very easy schedule and they clearly get a commanding lead in the division, well, it's not really fair to the second team there that's still playing well and is doing better than most other teams in other divisions but are stuck behind that team with a better, easier schedule. So by expanding out here, you're really making sure that every team that plays well, every team that's strong is going to get into the playoffs and have a chance to really make a run. The other interesting point of this new setup is that with that wild card round, with the best of 3, all 3 games are going to be played at one stadium. So the team with a better record is going to get all those 3 games. I think that's fair because now as we discussed earlier, without the sound effect, without having fans there, without having that home field advantage of the crowd really on top of the away team, there's really no home field advantage anymore. Yes, there's the comfort of being in the stadium that you're used to. Yes, there's the comfort of not having to travel so far. But if you're going to play 3 games in a row and not be constantly moving, I don't think there's much of a home field advantage. I think that even with the sound effects, there's not going to be loud enough. I think teams are going to be comfortable playing wherever they want to play as long as conditions are good. So I don't think you need to worry about it. Obviously, you want to get that advantage to have the 3 games at your stadium just so you can have the comfort of being where you're at. But I think away teams are going to have absolutely as good a chance to make a run at those home games as any other team, right? I don't think the home team necessarily has a huge advantage. So I'm all fine with that. And then obviously increasing for each round, we go to the best of 5, then best of 7. I think it's a really good call by the MLB. I think it's exciting. I also... and I don't want to leave this out, this could possibly be there, but I think this is a great test because the MLB, I think, should expand. I think having more teams and making the playoffs more exciting is great. Granted, I understand the lore that baseball is one of the hardest playoffs to make it into because of the fact that it's a shortened field. You don't have necessarily as many opportunities to get a spot in there in the playoffs. But I do think that if we could get some of this and test out and show how 8 teams can be exciting and get more fans invested in the playoffs, have more teams playing very important games at the end of the season, this could really be a great time to showcase how this could work and bring this to a regular season after COVID, next year, what have you, as we go along and be like, maybe we don't just have the one game that you play and you're in because anything can happen in that game. Let's do a best of 3. Let's get more teams involved, and let's make this exciting playoff season. Playoff baseball is some of the best playoff sport, in my opinion, across all sports leagues. There's a level of excitement and intensity with every pitch that is just so hard to replicate across other leagues. So if you can expand that and make it even better, I'm all for it. And I think we need to really look at this to be the new format going forward. I know it's not. I know this is just for the COVID shortened season, but I think it really gives us the opportunity to try this out and see if it works. And who knows? It could be really an amazing start. So those are all the new kind of aspects of the baseball season, of the games, the playoffs. Again, it's so exciting to have it back. It's so excited to actually be able to see a full slate of games. Checking the ESPN app and see all these games ready to go. Turn on the TV and see that we have games on ESPN, on Fox. It's a wonderful sight. And I've been waiting for this for so long, so it's incredible to have it back. The other league, obviously, making a big splash and will be back starting on July 30th and 31st for the first few games of the season, is the NBA. We've discussed the bubble. We've discussed the snitch line. We've discussed this whole trying to ecosystem they're trying to create down in Disney and Orlando, and creating the NBA in a bubble different than the MLB, which is still allowing teams to play at their stadiums, except for obviously Blue Jays in Canada because Canada doesn't trust Americans crossing their border because of how they've been treated with the COVID. But the NBA, the new format being down there and getting done, we have scrimmage games happening, so we're starting to see the teams gel. We're starting to see them get the rust off because for a lot of those players, they are very rusty right now. I think one of my favorite videos to see recently right now was McCollum on the Trailblazers not be able to make a dunk. I could not believe that was it's just shocking to see someone of his caliber go for an easy dunk and just completely hit the rim. We saw many back and forth rallies between teams where they were just missing every shot, layups, jump shots, easy passes. They need to warm up too. It's been a while. They're getting back into it. They're getting back into game playing shape. So I'm glad they're doing these scrimmages because it'd be awful to see this during an actual important regular game that means something. So I am glad to see that they're getting the rust off, but man, do some of these players need to really warm up and practice. It's tough. I mean, you can't just jump back into the regular season games at the level like the NBA and feel that you're going to be playing at your top and at your best. It's just not going to happen. So I am happy they're doing that. It is great to see it continue. But with the scrimmages happening, we have to focus on the team that's near and dear to my heart, and that are the 76ers. The Philadelphia 76ers are back playing basketball. So excited. And the big one coming out of it was that we saw recently, and it was going across social media and through all the people in the sports world, this was pretty exciting, especially for Sixers fans, is that Ben Simmons made a three-pointer. He actually squared up, took the pass, and shot the three and made it. I mean, that just doesn't happen. And it's so exciting to see Ben Simmons do it. But I will temper my expectations for right now because Ben Simmons has done this to us before. During the preseason, before the season started, before all COVID canceled the season and we had to wait till now, but before the preseason of that, Ben Simmons made a three-pointer during that as well. And he was taking jump shots, and he was looking good, and we were all saying as fans, like, oh, this is a new Ben, and Ben Simmons has finally figured it out. He knows that if he gets a jump shot, he's going to be deadly in the league. There's no way anyone can catch up to him. He's the next LeBron. Like all that excitement around Ben Simmons doing it. And what happened when the season started? Ben Simmons went back to driving to the basket, playing just as, playing his normal game of facilitating, of getting close and only hook shots and, layups, no jumpers. Ben Simmons, for whatever reason, clearly is practicing his shot, is taking the time to really develop it, is working on in the offseason and really digging in to make that jump shot work. And then he takes it and you see it's there. The form is there. He's ready to go. But he has done this before. Well, he'll do that in the preseason. He'll do it in games that quote unquote don't count. And then the second the regular season starts, it's over. Ben Simmons just refuses, for whatever reason, when the game actually matters and the regular season starts, for whatever reason, he believes that it's just he can't take the jump shot then. His comfort in that form, in that shot, just is not there. And it's so frustrating because you can see he can do it. So why not translate that from, I know, a game that, games that may not be important right now, but translate that into the regular season. He has to build this confidence. I don't understand where it goes. Why Ben Simmons is so fearful to take that shot to the regular season. I'd rather him take those shots and miss. I just want him to have the instinct to pull up when the defender's up. If a defender's going to play off of him because they know he's going to drive to the basket, we just need him to at least take the shot. Make the defenders play true to him. Yes, he may not make every single one, but at least if he starts making a few, the defenders will have to come out a little more and guard him a little higher on the paint, which is advantageous to his style of play. If he can just get them to take a few more steps out of the paint to guard him, then he's going to be able to blow by them and make a layup and do shots that he feels comfortable with, that we know he is gifted and athletic at making. But we need him to get this jump shot going. It is so critical to the success of the Sixers is if Ben Simmons gets this jump shot. He cannot consistently be a one guard coming up who will refuse to take the shot. Because defenders are just going to wait in the paint, either wait for him to pass it off or try and make a drive to him and, do what he does, which is play very strong down low. He's a 6'10" point guard. It's a freak of nature. He has incredible ability in the paint, but he has to get that shot. Even if it's just a nice baby hook from outside, just something where he can take a shot from the elbow and make it at a consistent enough rate to hold other defenders accountable, to make sure that they're coming out and checking him and making sure that he is not just getting whatever shot he wants. If Ben Simmons can develop this, it would just change the whole game for him, for his team, for Embiid on the court, because defenders won't be able to clog the paint just to wait for Simmons because they know Simmons and Embiid are both going down there. You pull more defenders out. You get more opportunities of one-on-one for Embiid down low. Embiid can take advantage of all those opportunities. We know he's got the talent. So it's just so much opens up if we can just get this done. And I don't know why Brett Brown just doesn't drill in his head and draw plays where Ben Simmons taking the shot. I wish Brett would just do a couple plays he'd throw in there, right? Where the main goal of it is to get Ben Simmons open on a wing to take a jumper and tell him he has to take that jumper. I think you can't rely on him to make that decision. So I think the coaches really need to start forcing it into the game plan and forcing him to take those. I don't see it being such a bad shot that he can't take a few. right? Even the worst jump shot shooter, like at least if you put it up a couple times, like it's gonna go in eventually. And you're in the NBA, and all you do is practicing. You have the form, you have all the skills and everything to make this work. I don't know what goes through his head and he doesn't pull up. So we'll see. Hopefully this is a new Simmons. We'll see. I would love to have a brand new Simmons on the court. Even for the short NBA season, it would be incredible to see him blossom into the superstar that we think he can be. So that's what we got to wait for. But again, basketball's back. The scrimmages are starting. The regular season is starting in a week. It is so exciting to have it back after the whole hiatus it was on. Obviously, it's not going to be the same as the first half of the regular season. I think there's going to be a lot of rust. There's going to be a lot of new style and game plan that really need to work out. There's players that aren't going to be there. So we'll see. But I am all on board for all this baseball. Basketball's back. It's crazy. And on top of that, not only have we had baseball start, not only do we have basketball on the horizon, we also even have news from the NFL. The NFL is actually there. It's here. We have it happening with big news happening because we're recording on Sunday, the 26th. Last night on the 25th, Saturday, with big news coming through that Jamal Adams, the safety from the New York Jets, got traded to the Seattle Seahawks. Now, of course, as a Philadelphia Eagles fan and a team that definitely needs help in the secondary still, even with some big moves, Darius Slay, I would have loved to have Jamal Adams there, and I wish we could have made it work. Granted, if you're an Eagles fan listening, you had to understand that we just didn't have the cap space for it. There was no way that Howie Roseman was going to trade for Jamal Adams without any contingency plan to sign him later. Right, there was no way we were going to be able to sign him to a long-term contract for the money that he wanted. It probably would have been just basically a rental for a year before having to trade him off again. So I think Howie made a decent enough decision to understand that there just wasn't the right time to go out and get him. But would I've loved to have him on the team? Of course. So instead, the Jets hold out for the Seattle Seahawks, who make a monstrous trade to get Jamal Adams over to him. They give up 2 first-round picks, the 2021 first round and 2022, a third pick in the 2021 draft, and a starting safety, Bradley McDougall, they sent over to the Jets. So the Jets are able to pick up 2 first rounds, a third round, and an actual safety that they can play right now, that they can fit into their scheme and have at least off the bench. And try. I don't know how good McDougall is going to be this season, but at least they have a player to fit onto the depth chart. The Jets sent along Adams and just a 4th-round pick in the 2022 draft, so nothing that even impacts them the next season. So the fact that you're going to be able to actually, the Jets, who probably are going to have a relatively rough season again, I don't see it getting that much better. So they probably are going to be in the top 10 in the draft in 2021. On top of that, they then have the 1st-round pick of the Seahawks. Seahawks usually a perennial playoff team. They're always there. We don't really have to worry about them being a bad team, but you never know. If they're to be bad, then that's a second high pick for them. But at least you have 2 in the 1st round right there, where the Jets continue to build around a young quarterback, around a young offensive core. They have the running back. They have the quarterback. They have some wide receivers. They could definitely get some help there. You can work on the linemen. Your defense is pretty solid. You can continue to build it up. So the Jets have a really bright future and opportunity to get this done. I think Joe Douglas did a great job trying to get as much value as he could for Jamal Adams. I don't think the Eagles would have gone close to that deal or close to that offering. I think he really held out, even though Jamal Adams was making so much noise. He didn't just allow Jamal Adams to push him around. He waited to get the best he could get for it. Granted, if you're a Jets fan, you don't want to see Jamal Adams go. He's a beast of a player. He is exactly what we want in his safety. He's big. He's tough. He can defend against the run. He can defend against the pass. He can get back behind the line and get sacks on blitzes on the outside. Jamal Adams is exactly what you want for safety. And he has shown over 3 seasons so far in the league that he is not slowing down. 2 Pro Bowls already and is considered the top safety in most categories. Jamal Adams absolutely deserves, I'd say, the recognition to be one of the best. And Joe Douglas really worked it, and he got it done. I mean, again, no Jets fan wants that to happen, but you got the best you could have out of this. You didn't want a disgruntled player on that defense. You didn't want to have to deal with that in the locker room. You already have other issues you need to focus on. You do not want to have to focus on trying to make everyone be cohesive in the locker room because of some player that wants to get out of there. So really, hats off to him. Way to go, Jets, to get him out there. Really got the best. And then the question I have on that is, what are the Seahawks doing here? I know the Seahawks are trying to build up that defense again, but they've already spent, I think it was almost 5 draft pick capital on safety so far. I know that they were the Legion of Boom and that they really focused on. Pete Carroll understands the importance of defense, but you saw how far they were able to get last year in the playoffs and last year during the season with just a solid offense and a good enough defense to keep them in the games. You know that your offense is going to get you over that hump, and your offense is always going to keep you in those games, keep you competitive. So why get so wrapped up around trying to fill in this and make another Legion of Boom? I mean, granted, Jamal is great. I hope they can sign him after this. I mean, you already have a lot of money tied in with Russell Wilson. You know, DK Metcalf is going to start asking for a lot of money once his rookie contract's up. Obviously, he's only 1 season, but that's later down the road as well. Can you tie in a lot of money to Jamal Adams now? Will you be able to fit other players in that scheme? I mean, obviously, Clowney's not coming back now. So you're going to have to start filling in the defensive line. You have a solid, obviously, you have one of the best linebackers in the league by Wagner, but you have money tied into him as well. So, you know, we'll see how they can adjust that, how the salary cap goes. Can they get players to take a pay cut? But for the time being, the Seahawks just got very scary. And they were already a very scary team, and this is going to be a really dominant year for them. If we have a season, fingers crossed, knock on wood, we have an NFL season, the Seahawks are going to be a team to look out for. And, you know, maybe we'll look back and say they did the right move. You know, maybe they did the right move giving up all this capital because, I mean, you know, granted, they don't always pick high in the first round, but that's still a first-round pick. And to give up 2, it's like listening to like a Cowboys trade at this point. It's insane. But I know as an Eagles fan, it's going to be terrifying to take on the Seahawks. They always seem to have our number, so now they got a solid safety back there. You know, will Carson Wentz be able to play against it? You know, a lot. Time will tell. But really incredible news, a big trade, a blockbuster trade to see the player leave. Let's see how the Jets build from here. Can Joe Douglas take this opportunity to take this draft capital and make this team something powerful in the next few seasons? All that is to unfold. We'll see how it goes. But really, I just could not be more excited making this episode with the fact that I could talk baseball, could talk basketball, and football. Like, we're back, guys. It's happening. We don't have to fill the day with all the other stuff. That's the political stuff happening with whether players are upset with everything going on, with the nature of the state of the United States, with COVID, with everything else and how that's impacting the leagues. It's done. We can actually just think about playing and the players and the team and start rooting for your favorite teams again. It's happening. It's so exciting. I cannot believe it's back. So with that said, having gone through, like we said, the 3 leagues, talking about the sports coming back, the seasons are here. I think we're going to wrap it up for this episode. I want to thank everyone for continuing to listening in through all this. You've been incredible to endure through all the times where we haven't had sports to talk about, but the seasons are coming back. We'll have scores. We're going to start following, the basketball as well, talking Sixers again. We're going to get soon be able to talk about the Eagles. I'm excited to talk Phillies, Yankees, all the baseball games that go on as we learn more about how the teams are shaping up as we pull into the playoffs. It really is just a great time for sports. And also NHL will be starting soon. I know the NHL is going to get going in August, so I'm pumped to see how that goes. I don't always talk about it a lot, but up here in Canada, obviously important, so we're going to hit on those as well. So continue to check back with us. Thank you for listening in. As always, appreciate your support. And until next time, have a good evening and good night. Thank you for listening to The ChadBurn Show. Remember to check out all new episodes every Monday at 7 p.m. on Google Podcasts, Apple iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, and all major platforms where you listen to your podcast. If you'd like to get in touch with me and want to send in your questions or requests for topics to discuss in the show, you can email chadburn.show@gmail.com. All episodes have video recorded, which is then posted to our YouTube channel, The ChadBurn Show. Be sure to subscribe to us where you get your podcast or on our YouTube channel to stay up to date with all our new content. You can also follow the show on Instagram @ChadBurn Show and on Facebook, The ChadBurn Show, to see clips from previously recorded episodes and information on all upcoming shows.